pick and prevail in your fantasy football league with the help of our starting lineup. At host to quarterback the show, we have Nick Giacobbe. Up next, a dual threat in Dynasty and Daily Fantasy, we have Cody Repass. And finally, working the waiver wire, we have Nick Cap. These are your playmakers that will provide you with sleepers, breakouts, and busts to help you achieve fantasy glory. This is the PrimeTime Fantasy Podcast.
Welcome, everybody, to Week 6, the live show of the PrimeTime Fantasy Podcast, where we give you our predictions, our picks, in the hopes that we help you prevail today, next week, and for the rest of the season in your fantasy football leagues. I am your host every single week, Nick Giacobbe, and joining me is Nick Capsalis. Nick, it's Week 6. How's your Sunday morning going?
I know my team can't lose today. That's all I know. So I'm pretty happy.
Well, your team doesn't play today. That's why.
That's why they can't lose. That's all that matters. Let's go.
I unfortunately know that I am prepared for an absolute slaughtering on Sunday Night Football. I can't even put the Seahawks on next to the red zone because it's on Sunday night. It's prime time, and I need to watch them get absolutely demolished in prime time, and that kind of sucks. But here's the good news. I picked up Big Ben in 2 fantasy leagues, and I also have Najee Harris. So as the Steelers are absolutely bulldozing us, I also have the Steelers defense in 1 league. So it's not all bad. The slaughtering will happen, but it'll happen. At least I'll be getting fantasy points for it. And maybe I'll even win some matchups tonight. So if this is your first time joining us, welcome in and thank you so much. We do a live show every single Sunday, 11 a.m. Eastern time on Twitter, on Facebook, and on YouTube. You can ask all your questions in those chats. We'll pull them up on the screen. Nick is going to monitor the Twitter chat for me since it actually isn't going to pop up on our screen. But Nick will answer any Twitter questions that you guys could have. If you enjoy the live shows, how about you check out the shows during the week? We have a show on Tuesday and Friday. You can find the audio version of the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, anywhere where you can find your audio podcasts. If you're on Apple, please give us a 5-star rating and a review. And if you want to watch the show for video and audio, go to our YouTube channel, PrimeTime Fantasy Podcast, on Tuesdays and Fridays. If you want to support the show on social media, and please do, we have Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at PrimeTimeFFPod. Facebook is PrimeTime Fantasy Podcast, as well as the YouTube is PrimeTime Fantasy Podcast. Alrighty, Nick, let's start off this week by talking about some injury updates. We do have some updates for a couple injured players, some news that we couldn't get to for Friday's show because it wasn't available yet. I think it was yesterday, Christian McCaffrey was put on the IR. His hamstring is still bothering him. I think he tried to rush himself back because he was practicing last Wednesday, and there's a chance that he could play this week or even last week. And I think he just rushed himself back and kind of aggravated it again. So now the latest update, I believe he can return week 9 against the Pats. That would be because he's put on IR yesterday. So 3 weeks would be the Pats game where they could activate him off IR, I think, on the Saturday. I think. If not, it would be week 10 against the Cardinals. McCaffrey only played 3 games last year. These are his injuries. He missed 5 games with a high ankle sprain. Then he got in week 2, I believe. Then he missed another 4 games with an AC shoulder joint, then another 4 with a glute strain. So if you're looking at the last, 16 games last year, and we've had 5 games this year, over 21 games. He's only played, 4 or 5? I forget which number. It's 4 or 5.
6 he finished at.
Well, he played
3 this year, 3 last year.
Did he play 3 this year? I don't think he
played.
Yeah,
he got injured in week 3. He had, I think it was 28, 24, the kid, or 32, something like that.
So he's only played 6 games over the last 21 games. So, Nick, what do you make of this aggravated hamstring injury for Christian McCaffrey and how it's affecting fantasy lineups?
My God, I hope you own Chuba Hubbard if you're the owner, and he's not going to make up for the injury to McCaffrey. I mean, it's such a detrimental loss. If you're the guy with the 1 pick and took McCaffrey, it's very slim and very unlikely that you're going to win your championship unless he returns to full form at week 9 or 10. You would have needed to hope to win week 1 and 2 off those big weeks, and then you've been struggling ever since at the running back position. It's tough, but at the end of the day, I think next year, I mean, if he finishes out the season strong, he's still going to be the number 1 overall pick in fantasy because of how valuable of a player he just is.
I disagree. The injuries are starting to bother me. This is a 4th injury over the past 2 years that sidelined him for more than 3 games. He's injury prone. I'm labeling him now. Christian McCaffrey is injury prone. This isn't the same injury. It's not a nagging injury. This is now, like I said, I mean, I'm going to pull it up again. I'll name the injuries for you. In the past 2 years, we have high ankle sprain, an AC shoulder joint, a glute strain, and now it's the hamstring. And the hamstring is going to have him out for at least, 5 games total this year because he missed 4 and 5. Now he's 3 more. So it's definitely going to be 5. And there's no guarantee that he's going to even play the rest of it. Christian McCaffrey is injury prone. There are people that label Dalvin Cook injury prone after, I think he tore his ACL a couple years ago. And, there's other players that people have labeled as injury prone. Just because McCaffrey hasn't suffered a serious injury doesn't mean that he's not. He suffered multiple injuries now. I know he's dynamic. I know he's good for a lot of catches and a lot of yards, but Kamara's played all his games. Derrick Henry plays all his games. Dalvin, yeah, he gets banged up a bit. Zeke Elliott plays all his games. I think Aaron Jones missed 2 last year. I know Chubb's missing today, but Chubb throughout his career has played most of his games. I'm just naming all the running backs that go in rounds 1 or 2. I mean, Antonio Gibson right now is playing with something wrong with his shin, and he's had 20-plus fantasy points 2 of the last 3 weeks. McCaffrey's injury prone. That's the bottom line, and he's not the surefire number 1 next year. We'll discuss this in a year's time, but it isn't like the last 2 or 3 years where it's McCaffrey and then blank. It's not there anymore. The window has closed big time.
I agree. The gap has definitely thinned down, but I mean, if Derrick Henry plays the rest of the year and gets 2,000 yards, he might be the number 1 overall. And then who are you taking over him? Maybe Dalvin Cook. That would be the only debatable one.
Kamara, depending on who's playing quarterback for the Saints.
Yeah, but Kamara's production's gone down with Jameis Winston as quarterback versus Drew Brees. So the production's not there for him to be the number 4 pick. Are you going to trust Zeke in his backfield by committee with Tony Pollard?
Is it a backfield by committee now? Because Zeke said back-to-back games with 20-plus fantasy points.
Hey, I love Zeke.
They're figuring that out now.
I love Zeke, but if I'm at the 3 pick and McCaffrey and Zeke is sitting there, I'm taking CMC every single time.
But that's the 3 pick. That's not the 1 or 2 pick.
I'm saying the only 2 that anymore. Outside of Dalvin Cook and Derrick Henry, there's no one else debatable, and neither of them offer the same passing work game as Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah.
If McCaffrey stays healthy the rest of the year, he will be the 101 again, or it'll be debatable with Derrick Henry. Even Dalvin Cook missed some time this year.
Yeah, I think he's still a top 3 pick, but I don't think he's a surefire number 1 anymore. It's just not the way it is.
That's fair.
If you don't have McCaffrey, or if you do have McCaffrey, you don't have Chubb, that's rough. But I mean, there's some other running backs out there. Maybe you could have grabbed Darrell Williams. Maybe you grab Damian Williams. I know he's not playing today. Maybe you grab Khalil Herbert, who is playing today. Chris Carson, who we're about to speak about, is out on the IR for 3 weeks. So maybe you grabbed Alex Collins. So hopefully you grabbed one of these running backs off your waiver wire that you could slot in for the next 3 weeks, because it's getting thin. I mean, there might be other injuries throughout the year, but it's really thin at running back. So hopefully you jumped on it. I know somebody in one of my leagues says, Nick, you're hoarding running backs because I've picked up Damian Williams, Darrell Williams, and Collins. Well, this is why I hoard my running backs. Bye weeks come up, injuries come up. It's a very thin position. That's why I'm hoarding my running backs. So
if you go, just real quick, if you go based on the odds from last year, it is very likely one of these running backs we're going to talk about or have talked about in the last 2 weeks is going to be gone for the year. So one of these guys that you picked up off your waivers is going to be the equivalent of a league winner, because you're getting a workhorse running back off your waiver wire that's going to take over the rest of season. It's just the likelihood based on what we've seen in years past, where guys are out for a couple weeks and then they return for 1 or 2 games and they're done for the year. They're shut down because they're not in playoff contention. It's very likely that we're going to see one of these guys again, and who knows who that league winner is going to be, but it's starting to look like a couple of them.
Let's go to Chris Carson. So he dealt with a little bit of a neck thing last week. It seemed like he was trending in the right direction, but apparently not, because Pete Carroll announced yesterday, or I think it was Friday. Yeah, today's Sunday morning. I think it was Friday. Pete Carroll announced that Chris Carson is going on the IR due to a neck injury. We don't exactly know what that is. It could be just about anything. I don't think it's surgical or anything like that. I think they just want to get him right and just let him. I wonder if Pete's kind of reading the room and saying, without Russell Wilson, how much work would how big of an impact would Chris Carson have? We're not talking about Derrick Henry here. This is Chris Carson, who's also another guy that's missed a good amount of games over the last few years. He had fumbling issues. He fixed them a bit, but he did have fumbling issues. So I wonder if this is Pete Carroll kind of reading the room and saying, all right, we got the Steelers, we got the Jags, and we got the Saints. He's not going into that locker room and saying we're going to lose any of these games, but logically speaking, they're not going into Pittsburgh tonight and winning. Monday night against the Saints, I think that's home against Seattle, and that's not it depends what Jameis shows up, as my roommate Cody said. Other Cody, not the one that's normally on the show and isn't present at the moment. But it depends what Jameis shows up. If good Jameis shows up, Seahawks ain't winning that one. If bad Jameis shows up, maybe Adams finally does something on defense. But my point being, I mean, Chris Carson, I don't know how much of an impact he would have had. I think Pete's kind of reading the room and saying, give him some time off. We have the bye. Russ and Carson come back, and we'll see what happens. So there's a neck injury. He can return week 10 against the Packers with Russell Wilson. So, Nick, how does this affect your fantasy team if you are a Chris Carson owner that drafted him in, I think, ADP was round 4, like early round 4, roughly? He's probably a running back, too.
If you took one of those top 10 ends and top wide receivers, you're probably struggling at your next running back spot. I imagine he's your RB2, and that's a struggle already because you probably don't have too much depth at the position. Alex Collins looks phenomenal. You could clearly tell that there's talent there. And the Packers haven't been the best against the run this year. The Lions have had production. The Lions had production against the Packers. The Niners had production against the Packers. It's coming in chunks. It's going to happen. I like Collins as a play for this week, and Rashad Penny. I don't see him having too much of an impact when he returns next week.
You want to talk about injury prone? Penny plays like one game a year. I mean,
I'm not too worried about Penny. I think Alex Collins is very talented, and I'd look towards him.
All right, we do have a question, so I'll give my take after that. This is from Nick Barone. Josh Jacobs or Khalil Herbert in a PPR league?
I'm going Herbert. We'll talk about Herbert later on, but I really like this matchup for him. I think he's incredibly talented. With Damian Williams and David Montgomery there, he's taking over the RB1 role. And with the new play caller, they're running the ball a little over 50% during their games. They're 3-2, so they are winning. They're not really too much of a fluke. They're not going to win this game against Green Bay, but like I just said, Green Bay allows running backs to score points, and they're going to run the ball. So I like Herbert a lot in this matchup.
Yeah, I have Herbert, and I'm actually checking to see where I have Herbert, because I know I have him in one league. I have him in my dynasty, and I think I'm going to start him. I haven't. That's a stinker tinker time decision that I'll be making in about an hour. I haven't decided that one yet. Did I get him in this league? I did not. So I only have Herbert in. Do I have him in our league? I don't think I do. I'm just double checking all 4 of my leagues right now because I forget where I got him. Yeah, I only have him in one league. I think I'm going to start him. I said this to my friend Tom, who's a Raider fan. He's a little bit higher on Jacobs than I am due to him being a 1,000-yard rusher for a couple years, but it's just the injuries, the volume's not there. I feel like he has to get in the end zone to score. I think his highest yardage on the season is like 48, and he doesn't really get catches, and I don't know what to expect from the Raiders today. They could come out and play guns blazing, or they could shut down after the whole Gruden thing. So I think I would just avoid all Raiders at this point, except for Darren Waller. I think this week, don't play them because you don't know what you're going to get out of them, and they don't have a bona fide stud. They don't have a Hopkins. They don't have a Dalvin Cook. They don't have a Patrick Mahomes. They don't have anybody who you know is going to go out there no matter what's surrounding them and score points, and I don't trust Josh Jacobs to be that guy. So I would play Khalil Herbert in this one, Nick. I think that's a good play. So thank you for that question. If you guys have any other questions, drop them throughout the show. We'll answer them no matter what we're talking about. We'll finish up our point, and then we'll get right into your question. So my take on Carson. If you draft him as your running back 1, you're probably screwed, and that's why you don't wait till around 4 or 3 to draft your running back 1. If you draft him as your running back 2, you should have another running back available. You should have a Javonte Williams or maybe a Chase Edmonds, or maybe you picked up Chuba Hubbard or Darrell Williams. This season, we've already had Chuba Hubbard, Darrell Williams, Damian Williams. I know he's not playing today. Khalil Herbert and Alex Collins. You should have picked up one of them or made an effort to it. Unless your team's like 5-0 and you never had the number 1 waiver, you should have had the opportunity to pick up a running back. And if you didn't, honestly, that's on you as a fantasy manager for not reading the room. You should have 3 or 4 running backs, knowing the position is thin, knowing injuries happen, and knowing that bye weeks are a thing that are coming up. So hopefully you picked up one of them. As for Alex Collins, I said watching the preseason game that he looked good. And I know it's just preseason. I know. I'm not dumb on that, but still, he looked good. He looked like he was finding his lanes. He looked like he was he looked like somebody that was going to be the backup. I never thought Penny was going to be the backup just due to his injury history, and due to the fact that he hasn't really shown anything in 4 years that warranted anything else. So over the last 2 weeks, he had 44 yards against the San Francisco 49ers and a touchdown. Last week, he had 47 yards and no touchdown against the Rams. He got a couple receptions too. He got 2 receptions against San Francisco, 3 against the Rams. I don't know what to expect from Geno Smith or the Seahawks offense tonight. He did look good at the end of the Rams game, but it's such a question mark. So I wouldn't suggest playing Collins tonight because I think you do need to see what you're getting out of that offense before you can comfortably start him. But if you did have Carson, if you did pick up Collins and you don't have another running back available, you kind of just have to play him and roll the dice and hope for the best. So I think he's a serviceable play over the next 3 weeks. But tonight I would probably bench him. All right, Jared Maldonado. I always appreciate my buddy Jared hopping in the chat and giving us questions. So he's asking, should he start Damian Harris today? Jared, if you're still here, I'm going to respond back to you in the chat. Can you tell me who are your other options? If you could tell me who your options are, that would be really helpful. But Nick, a blanket statement: would you start Damian Harris against the Cowboys today?
I like the matchup, but I don't like the upside because I think they're going to manage the clock all game against Dallas. I think they try and keep it low scoring. And that's the best way to win. So I think that they're going to manage the clock and they go running back by committee. He got double-digit touches last week, so I'm not really worried about him finding production. But I'm not sure how many points he's really going to put up. So if you're playing him as your RB2 because you got, Kamara on bye and are maybe dealing with a Carson injury or something like that, that's probably what I'd roll with. I'd probably feel comfortable putting him in knowing he's not going to have a high ceiling. But if you're playing him as a flex play, I'm looking to switch to even a waiver wide receiver has much more upside.
Yeah, I wouldn't play him as a flex play. I'm right with you on this one. I think the position is so thin. We have bye weeks. We have injuries. You probably have to play him if he's on your team, but I need to know what Jared's other options are. So, Jared, if you hear this, or if you listen, if you want to tell us who your other options are, that could help things out. I'll mention this here too. He was dealing with a rib injury. He was a limited participant in Thursday and Friday's practice, but he is going to play. Schefter said he is going to play. So I say play him as your running back too if you don't have another option. But again, I would need to know what your options are. McKissick, he did answer. JD McKissick is his other option. Edwards-Helaire and McCaffrey are on IR for him. So
yeah, that's tough.
Let's see. The football team has the Chiefs. And that's just gonna be the Chiefs just ripping them apart, I think. So I'm just gonna look at McKissick's numbers real quick.
I wouldn't trust McKissick in this matchup because the ball's going to be open down the field and they don't put a lot of pressure on the quarterback. So Heineke's going to have time to throw, which is not going to lead to short checkdowns for McKissick, and it's by committee as well. So I think I trust Damian Harris's guaranteed workload over McKissick, hoping on the upside of a couple of catches and a touchdown.
I'm going to take McKissick in this one, Jared. I think McKissick has more upside. I mean, in 3 games, he's had 4+ targets. Last week, unfortunately, he only caught 1 of 4 of them. But I think the not Redskins, the football team are going to be down point. They're going to be down points in this matchup. They're going to have to throw, and they're not going to throw to Antonio Gibson. They're going to throw to McKissick. So I think he could get some yards. I think he has a chance of a touchdown. This is just a really tough one. I know it's our job on the show to tell you who to play, but this is I think I'm with Nick on this one. I think Damian Harris has your safer floor. I think McKissick is your higher ceiling, I think. So the Patriots play at 4, the Chiefs play at 1, so you would have to make that decision in the next hour and a half. Depending on, I don't know how you did on Thursday. I think this is an R league, so I'm just going to pull this up real quick and just see how he's doing in this match. I was going to say, because if he's down points already, no, you're down 7 because of the Tampa D, and James Robinson is 4.3 right now. I would play Damian Harris because it's the safer floor. But if you do want to go for that higher ceiling, then yeah, go with JD McKissick. And you're very lucky, Jared. You're very lucky that you got Darrell Williams because I put in a claim for him, and due to my car, I did not.
I'm pissed about that. You told me you were taking.
I was. I set my waivers. I set my waivers Tuesday night after 6 hours at multiple auto shops, and I had the Bengals defense as my number 1 waiver for some weird reason. So I don't know. All right, thank you, Jared. We appreciate the question. Nick Barone again. Who should I go in my flex position? Emmanuel Sanders, Allen Robinson, Javonte Williams,
Tyler Higbee.
Higbee, or Darrell Williams? You can only go with one. Do you know? Are you in the league with him? And my camera is buggy. I don't know what's up with my camera.
I know I'm in 2 leagues with him. Let me check which one it is. Let me check if it's our league.
If it's only one, I'll answer the question for only one. I really like Emmanuel Sanders this week. I talked about it on the last show. I don't like Allen Robinson. Just he hasn't proven anything to me. He's banged up. He missed 2 practices this week, so I'm going to take Allen Robinson out. I'm not playing Higbee because he's not consistent. He's a tight end. Darrell Williams, you don't know what you're going to get. So I'm playing Emmanuel Sanders. I think that's an easier decision than I thought it would be. The Titans defense is one of the worst against wide receivers. Josh Allen's going to sling the ball around. He might have 4 or 5 touchdowns against those guys unless the Titans really chew that clock with Derrick Henry and mount like 7-minute drives. Even still, Sanders is a deep threat through and Allen can sling it. So I'm going to go with Emmanuel Sanders in this one.
I'm waiting. Okay, so Emmanuel Sanders plays. For me, it's in between Emmanuel Sanders and Javonte Williams. I'm waiting till I see the 4:00 game because Melvin Gordon is still questionable. So if the injury report comes out that Melvin Gordon's not playing, I'm starting Javonte because he's going to be.
I'm pretty sure he's playing.
If he is playing, then I would go with Emmanuel Sanders. Allen Robinson, I think, has a bounce back, but after 5 consecutive bad weeks, I'm not trusting starting him.
You can't trust him. Nope.
So,
nope. Can't trust him.
I'd rather bank on Emmanuel Sanders on Monday Night Football against that terrible Tennessee secondary.
All right. Thank you, Nick. We appreciate it. Any more questions? Drop them right back in. All right. My dad is in the chat. He has Julio Jones or J.D. McKissick. This is an easy one for me. It's going to be Julio Jones. The upside's there. Is his first game back, I think? I think it's his first game back.
Yep, first game back.
So, yeah, I'm going to go with Julio Jones. McKissick, he's a question mark. Julio is also a question mark, but in a different way. He's still Julio Jones. I think the last full game he played was against the Seahawks. He had like 100 yards and a touchdown. So, yeah, I'm playing Julio Jones. So thank you for that, but that's an easy one.
Yeah, I'm starting Julio as well, but I think I've been saying this for a couple of years, and I think Julio's relying on name a lot more than actual talent.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Let's see. Nick Chubb is out. I didn't even know he got hurt last week. But apparently he did. He hurt his calf. I don't think he practiced on. He didn't practice.
He hasn't
Wednesday.
practiced most of the week.
He got ruled out Thursday. He got ruled out Friday because I was at work. So he didn't practice Wednesday. Didn't practice Thursday. Kevin Stefanski ruled him out. He also said that Kareem Hunt is quote unquote banged up and will have a number of touches today. By number meaning he has a number in mind. We don't know what that number is, and we'll find out. So. If you're a Nick Chubb owner, Nick, I mean, same thing that we spoke about with the other running backs. He's not going on. I think Stefanski said this morning or last night that he's not going on IR. Then he has a chance to play Thursday night next week. I forget who their opponent is. So Chubb, like, you need to just slot in another running back. Again, you should have a 3rd or 4th running back. You just got to slot him in. I mean, we talked about the other running backs before. Kareem Hunt, like Kareem Hunt would have a monster game. He's a little banged up, and I don't like this.
No, I disagree entirely.
You think it's a smoke screen?
I disagree entirely. Kareem Hunt is going to have the same exact game he always does. Last year, I was a Kareem Hunt owner, and I knew and I was so hyped. Not because Chubb went down. Obviously, you're upset with the injury, but you thought the opportunity was going to be there for him to be a 3-down back. No, they plugged in another running back to take over the 1st and 2nd down and let Kareem Hunt still hold his 3rd down role and be the receiving back. So there's another running back there. I picked him up in a couple leagues. That they've been using as a slot receiver in some games and putting him in motion. He's eligible as a running back or wide receiver. In Yahoo on ESPN only as a running back. His name is Demetric Felton. Highly recommend go pick him up this week. He should have a larger workload than his projection is. If we were still doing triple threat, he would have been my hit for the day because they like this kid. They're using him well. The talent is immense, and he would be getting a guaranteed role in most offenses, but this backfield is way too crowded with Chubb and Hunt. This is his opportunity now. I think he runs with it. I think he has a huge game.
So are you
especially because also Chandler Jones is not playing, so there's not going to be a lot of pressure off the edge. They're going to have time. They're going to run draws. There's going to be a lot of opportunity here for this Browns offense.
Are you still playing Kareem Hunt though?
Yeah, I'm still playing Hunt, but I'm not putting the expectation that he's going to go off for 25.
Right. No, that makes sense. All right. Another Brown, Jarvis Landry, got activated off the IR. I think on Saturday he could play. He hasn't been ruled out. He hasn't been confirmed. I'm avoiding him. The Browns' off passing attack has looked horrendous the last few weeks. OBJ hasn't gotten going besides that first week. So I'm avoiding Jarvis Landry this week if he's even active. There are better
I'm
guys.
avoiding Jarvis. I like Odell this week.
Okay. I hope so, because I have him in 2 leagues in flex spots.
I'm still not starting him because I have other options that I feel are safer. But I think if Odell is going to bounce back, it's going to be this week. And if he doesn't, he's going to get traded by the deadline.
Yeah. Damian Williams is out, tested positive for COVID-19, so he's going to be out this week for sure and possibly next week, although it would be 10 days, so maybe not. Khalil Herbert, Nick, he is going to start. I think he had the same amount of touches as Damian Williams last week. So
Yeah,
should Khalil Herbert be locked into your lineups?
Yeah, I have him starting in multiple leagues. I have no concern. He's a talented running back, and it's a great matchup for him.
Yeah, I also have him starting right now over Javonte Williams and Alex Collins. So he's my running back too. My dynasty league that I lost J.K. Dobbins in. All right, some other injury news, Nick. If you can monitor the Twitter, we should get more information on this in a couple minutes. But these are for the 1 o'clocks. Terry McLaurin, a hamstring. He did not practice Friday. It sounds like he's going to play, but I think I didn't see an injury designation on Wednesday or Thursday, so I think he just was fine and maybe aggravated it on Friday.
I saw that he was missing a couple practices throughout the week, but I didn't know.
Yeah, I don't know, because when I looked at the football team injury report, it didn't have a designation for him on Wednesday and Thursday, which is weird. So I just assumed he practiced or whatever. It was very weird. I don't know.
Just real quick, because I just got this news in: Kadarius Toney will be active. Darius Slayton missing a third game in a row.
So I guess Slayton's Shepard must be active then.
Yeah, then no report on him. So I'll take a look when he gets closer to the line. But Tony's playing. I think was Galladay already ruled out for the game?
Yeah, Galladay was ruled out.
Yeah, so Galladay's out. If Shepard's in and Toney are in, I mean, Giants got a little bit of spark there, but
I'm not starting any of them against the Rams.
Yeah, with Ramsey there, I would still temper your expectations and probably not play either.
If Terry does play, you starting him?
Yeah. Terry should have a monster week against this Kansas City defense.
Terry's matchup proof. Speaking of Kansas City, Terry Kill had a quad injury, limited practice on Friday. I don't think he practiced Wednesday, Thursday. Sounds like he's going to play, so he's in your fantasy lineups.
Yep.
Antonio Gibson, the shin, limited practice Thursday and Friday. He's been playing through it. 20-plus fantasy points 2 out of the last 3 weeks. Another week, I think he had 18. So you're still starting Antonio Gibson. Jamal Williams, hip/illness, limited practice Wednesday, didn't practice Thursday, limited on Friday. He's not really startable at the moment. Swift is kind of the running back one there, but that's a good handcuff to have. He still gets some workload, but he's not one that you're starting every week at the moment. TJ Hawkinson, in knee, he was limited on Thursday and Friday. I think he's been dealing with the knee for a couple of weeks, and I think you're still starting him in your lineups for the most part. What about you? Are you starting him or not, Hawkinson?
Yeah, no questions.
Yeah. I forget what he did last week. Because
if these guys are starting, most of them are locked in your lineup. I think the only one that was said that's debatable every week is Jamal Williams. So I'm not concerned about most of these guys.
Hawkinson's a tough one because last 3 weeks he has 3, 8, and 4. He's
not
the tight end we thought he was.
I agree with that, but I think you just know that he's the number one receiving option on his team. And there's 3 tight ends that have that. It's Kelsey, it's maybe Kittle, it's Hawkinson, it's Waller. Like, even Kelsey, you could debate that it's Tyreek Hill, but he's going to get the workload. Hawkinson is the clear-cut wide receiver, number one receiving option on that team, so I'm not really concerned.
Yeah. Joe Mixon is ankle. He limited practice on Wednesday and Friday. I believe, what's the coach's name? You remember the coach's name? Bengals? Slipping on
Zach Taylor?
Zach Taylor, yeah. I believe he said that he's going to have a bigger role this week and more touches. So Mixon, lock him into your lineups this week. You drafted him in rounds 2 or 3. You lock him in. And lastly, Mike Williams, who dropped 44 on me last week. Thanks. Didn't practice all week with a knee injury. It sounds like he's going to play, but not practicing all week. That's a little tricky. So I think you got to play him. He's been a top 5 fantasy wide receiver. Even if he didn't practice, you still got to play him if he is active.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, Nick.
The 4 o'clocks, DeAndre Hopkins, an illness, full practice on Friday. He'll be good to go. Hopkins doesn't miss games. Chase Edmonds, a shoulder, limited practice all week. I think he'll be good to go since he was limited. Melvin Gordon, limited practice Thursday and Friday. I know you were talking about him a little bit, but I think he'll be good to go. Allen Robinson, ankle, only practice Friday, limited. He'll play, but Out of those names, Nick, I think the only one that I'm not I'm not starting Melvin Gordon, but I'm also not comfortable starting Allen Robinson. All the other ones, Chase Edmonds, due to the how thin that position is, I'll start Edmonds. I'll definitely starting Hopkins. Start Zeke Elliott, who's not in there, but he's also banged up. But yeah, the other ones, no.
No, yeah, same there.
All right, so if you get any more injury news, we'll pull it up for you. And if you guys have any more questions, we'll be live for we'll do another 10 minutes or so. Obviously, if you guys don't know, Cody's dealing with some life stuff right now. It's kind of made him have to take a step back, but that's okay because me and Nick are manning it, and we're gonna figure out some other stuff for the live shows. Maybe bring on a couple guests since the last two have been a little shorter. But yeah, we'll answer any questions that you guys have for the next 5 to 10 minutes, and then we'll get out of here. Nick, who have been some of your toughest lineup decisions this week in any of your leagues?
So Thursday, I had a tough decision of whether I start T. Higgins, Devontae Smith, or Odell, and I went with Devontae Smith. He struggled, but I decided I wanted the stack of him. I have Jalen Hurts at quarterback in that league, so I kind of wanted to start him and feel comfortable with that. I think he had a tough week, and I think that it was a good matchup. He didn't execute. It is what it is. You move on, but I think Odell and T. Higgins do have better matchups or more upside than him does this week. So I'm kind of annoyed about that, but it is what it is. They just got an alert that Joe Mixon is officially active today. DeAndre Swift and Jamal Williams both active as well.
So you could have only played one of them, right? Of those
yes,
three.
only one.
Yeah, I think Higgins is a starter every single week. I would have played Higgins. For me, I have a decision in my dynasty league. I gotta play.
Allen Robinson will be.
Yep.
Just real quick, Allen Robinson is active for today.
Yeah, you're getting the same alerts that I'm getting. I have a running back decision in my dynasty league. It's a problem just about every single week. So Javonte Williams, Khalil Herbert, or Alex Collins, and then I have Tyler Boyd and OBJ in my flex spots. And my flex spots haven't been producing either. So I think I'm benching Collins this week for sure. So it's between the other guys. Right now, I do have Khalil Herbert in. I think I'm just going to keep him in. And I have OBJ and Boyd in. I think I'm just going to start both of them, and I'll bench Devontae Williams. Just again, I need Melvin Gordon to get out of there. And then I do love him in Dynasty, but I think that's where I'm going to go. But that's definitely my toughest decision this week. And then in another league, it's a 12-man league, but the roster is really small. I have Emmanuel Sanders, Darnell Mooney, Javonte Williams, Darrell Williams, and Alex Collins. I'm starting Sanders. I've told you how much I love Sanders. By the way, Terry McLaurin is active. I just saw that.
Just two more quick updates. T.Y. Hilton officially active. I think we already knew that. And Curtis Samuel is inactive. Just real quick, out of curiosity, Ricky Seals-Jones, tight end there in Washington. If you're struggling, have injuries at the tight end, if you got some of these guys on bye, are you starting him, knowing that it's only Terry McLaurin who's dinged up, and then him probably is the number 2?
How did he do in targets last week? Let's see. I'm trying to see. Could you pull that up for me?
Yes, I'll pull that.
Rashad Bateman is active. Will make his 2021 debut for the Ravens. I don't know how many leagues he's rostered in right now, but if he has a good performance, he could be that number 1 waiver wire target.
So last week he had 9 targets, 5 catches, 41 yards against New Orleans. This week he has Kansas City.
Yeah, if you're telling me that he's going to get that many targets, yeah, I'm playing him. To me, it's all about it's all about the targets for the tight ends. Rashad Bateman's only rostered in 14% of leagues, so if he's a good performance today, he'll be our number 1 waiver target for Tuesday.
Just real quick, Sammy Watkins and Tyson Williams out, so a lot more upside for Bateman again. Not
and
sure
Latavius Murray too, or they have Le'Veon Bell. That whole backfield is just messy.
Yeah.
Let's see. I benched Mike Gesicki this week, who's 10.8 right now. It's a solid number, and the third quarter just started too. I played Dawson Knox over him, who's just been a complete animal these last few weeks, so I had to start Dawson Knox. And I'm starting Big Ben. I picked up Big Ben in 2 leagues. I picked up Big Ben in a league that I had Russell Wilson in, and I didn't have a backup quarterback. It was between Big Ben or Trevor this week, and I chose Big Ben. And then in another league, I had Ryan Tannehill and Sam Darnold, and I dropped Darnold, and Tannehill hasn't produced very well, so I picked up Big Ben. I'm just going to play the matchup against Seattle. The offense looked good last week against who the Steelers faced last week. It wasn't Denver. It was Or was it? It was Denver. It was Denver. They look good against that Denver defense. So I'm trusting Big Ben. I'm trusting him. And in one league, I have Najee Harris too with Big Ben. I have the stack. And then in that other league, I just have Big Ben. So I know Seattle's not going to play well tonight, but maybe I'll still have something to cheer for Sunday night. That was another tough one. Any other tough ones that you had to kind of ponder on for you?
Let me take a quick look through. Yeah, so I started Khalil Herbert over Allen Robinson. I plan on starting at least. I just trust a more guaranteed workload there with the running game. I went with Tom Brady over Dak Prescott this week. Dak going against New England. I think New England finds a way to manage the clock, so I went with Brady because I figured more upside. Unfortunately, did not execute too much. 18 points. Probably won't be a bust on the week, but probably won't finish in the top 10 either. So, not too great of a week from Brady.
That was a Thursday night Lenny week.
Yeah,
He's going to be in our studs and duds for sure. I think he had 25 points or something.
Zach Ertz played him with Kittle on bye, and now he was traded to.
Yeah, I played Ertz too.
Arizona.
I was happy with that one. They had 12 points with a touchdown, so I was happy with that one. Tyreek Hill is active, and Mike Williams is also active. So, like we said, both of those are locked into your lineups.
All those Vikings guys as well: Dalvin Cook, Madison, Thielen, Jefferson.
Yeah, so you're locking them all in.
Yeah.
Anything else for your rosters, Nick? Mine are good. Mine are locked in, and we're hoping for the best today.
I'm taking a look through real quick. Let's see. I'm playing Amari Cooper over Marvin Jones. Marvin Jones had a couple rough weeks, but he bounced back this week, has a touchdown already going into the third quarter.
Well, I think Cooper's one that you play just no matter what.
Well, I have the stack of CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper, so I figured for an upside I need one of them. I should bench one of them, but I decided
to trade one of them at that point.
I'm trying to trade Cooper because I owned him in 5 leagues, so I figured spread the wealth a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And my team name is CDC Guidelines, so I didn't really want to get rid of CDC.
That's my thing with Jonathan Taylor. I've tailored all 4 of my leagues, which worked to my advantage last week. I won 2 of my matchups and came really close in a third. This close in a third. All right, guys, that's going to be our show for today. Thank you guys for joining. If it was your first time, again, thank you so much. We do the show every single Sunday, 11 a.m. Eastern time on our YouTube, our Twitter, and our Facebook pages. And then our other shows are Tuesdays and Thursdays. You can find the audio versions on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, anywhere that you do get your podcasts. If you're on Apple, 5-star rating and a review is appreciated. The video version is on YouTube. The next week, we obviously will not have a London game. So we're going to try to do some other stuff for next week's live show. And it'll be fun. So hopefully you could join us for that. Nick, anything else you would like to say before we get out of here for week 6?
Yeah, good luck in your week 6 matchups. And at least we know the Jets ain't losing today. So it can't be too bad of a day. Am I right? Probably.
We'll see. We'll see. Good luck, guys. Unless you're facing me, then I wish you the worst of luck. Talk to you guys on Tuesday.